All right, I want to welcome you all to the Once Upon a Time chat with some of the cast, Michael, Faustino, Beverly, and Keegan. Thank you all for taking the time out of your very busy schedules. I know you guys have hectic schedules.
Thank you.
Great. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Maya will be joining us in a little bit. She'll just up, and there she is. Is that her walking in?
That's her walking in.
Right here.
Okay.
How you doing, Maya?
Good. How you guys?
Good.
Yeah. Hi.
That's awesome.
All right, we already started, so you just popped right in.
Good timing, actually.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, so like I said, we're just going to start with some of the fans have some questions in relation to bullying and certain things that they're not for anybody in particular. You guys can all answer them one by one. One of the questions they wanted to know is your personal experiences with bullying, and how did you handle it, and how did it change you if you've ever been bullied?
I kind of had a feeling that question would come up, and I was sort of thinking about, because I think, first of all, just being female, girls have a special way of bullying. I mean, guys will go outside and punch each other out and then be done with it. Girls can be very insidious, and I was really thinking about all the ways that has happened across time. But the one that kind of stood out for me was in grade school, there was a family of sisters that they just decided they did not like me. And even the big ones that were several grades ahead, and they were big girls. And I remember I almost said her name. I'm not going to say her name. She decided that she just got in my face. I could sort of still see her because she was so much bigger than I was. And I sort of felt in that moment that if I didn't do something to protect myself, that this torment was like never going to stop. And I remember being really little and just going like, "Bap!" And I just reared up and hit her. And she was so shocked that, and the bell rang and I ran because I was trying to survive. But I remember that something fundamentally changed in the way that they dealt with me after that. And I'm not necessarily saying that I advocate that you should punch out somebody that's your brother,
Right.
but I do think that there's a certain power in standing up to them, because if you are cowering in front of them, that gives them everything that they want. That's the fuel on which bullies run. And I felt like I took that away from her in doing that. Good for you.
I think it's an energy shift when that happens, right? Whether it comes from violent or whether it comes from voice, right? In the end, it's an energy shift. You're taking that energy away from them, right? And that's what's happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I same with me. Fights, always fights. For me, it was just the fact that I didn't know how to speak the language, so people made fun of me. It was just how it was. And eventually, you're going to have to stand up for yourself. Standing up for yourself might mean, in a physical sense, I hope that someone would go the other way. That was just my choice at the time because that was my tools that I had to work with. I think if we could possibly educate the future children today, it would be to stand up for yourself in a verbal sense. That would be the best.
So you're saying don't punch your bully?
No.
That's technically what he was kind of saying.
But I just think that there's obviously a different way, right?
Yeah, and we all come
That's
from
all.
a different time where if you did
That's
hit
right.
somebody or scrap on the schoolyard, it was okay. We
That's
were
right.
just separated
Mhm.
and sent to your corner or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a different time now. You can't do that sort of thing.
Exactly.
But I think one of the things, too, I was bullied as a kid on the bus, and I didn't stand up. I just allowed it to be happen because these people terrified me. It was a whole family, again,
Oh,
and
wow.
we took the school bus to school, and they just bullied. And this one girl, she decided who sat with her at the front seat of the bus every day. Today it's you. Today it's you. And you had no choice. If you were picked, you sat there. And you did what she
Wow.
said. Such control. But I think one of the powerful things that we can do now, because we can't hit and fight back in that way, is when you witness someone else being bullied, is step in.
That's
I
right.
think that's the best thing,
Yeah.
is teams and numbers, because often the person who's being bullied does not have the voice or does not have the courage or the strength or the tools. And so there's power in numbers. So if you see somebody being bullied, is to get in there and to help rescue that person and put the bullier.
I think it's also important to note that I feel like whenever we talk about bullying, we often try to contain it to childhood. I'm almost 42 years old, and I still have scenarios where people try to bully me
Sure.
Oh,
on
yeah.
a regular
Absolutely.
basis.
Yeah.
I'm bullied on a regular basis.
Yes.
Um, But I think
Yes.
the key is the older we get and the more chances we have to experience it and support one another, the voices grow louder, and the support systems you have around you, and the comfort you find in friends, or the ability to speak to others who've had shared experiences, somewhat allows you to deal with it differently. So.
Absolutely, absolutely.
No, yeah, I agree. Well, the thing is that a lot of people don't think that, I've had people say to me, oh, adults get bullied too, and that's why BKO is all ages. And when I've been asked in interviews that I've done, what makes you stand out? And I always say, one of the things is I work with many adults. You'd be surprised how many adults I work with, in and out of, no matter what they do, in the entertainment business, out of the entertainment business, I work with them all the time. They go through a lot, especially on social media. So it's an all-around thing. There's really no discrimination when it comes to it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course not.
Absolutely.
One of the other questions they had here was, which we all know this, the show in general is about hope, and it is given that to obviously many of the fans, as you guys all know. They want to know, like, obviously you've seen it, but they want to know, I guess they're curious if you've seen the entire effect and, like, what your thoughts on it are. Like, are you surprised that it got such an amazing response and the message is just reaching people the way it is? I don't really know how to word it.
Conventions, the fan conventions that we've gone to, it's been astounding. I had no idea. A young girl after young girl coming up, even young adults coming up and just weeping, crying, pouring their hearts out, telling me stories. I used to do this. I used to be bulimic. I used to be a cutter. I used to be bullied. I never left my room. I started watching Once Upon a Time. I found hope. I found other people that connected with me on social media, on Twitter, and now I come to these conventions, and it's become its own cult, but in a real positive way.
It's true.
I was shocked. And some of the young girls, they'll go and they'll meet maybe Emily or Lana, and they're just out of their mind.
Yeah,
So they're
I've seen
me, and
that.
I go, okay, it's okay, and I comfort them because. But it's such a shock because they've been so inspiring in their lives.
Yeah.
So that to me is
It's heartfelt.
Go ahead. I get the side on that because I always fool people on set. So people always think I'm one of the other girls. So they come off and then they're like kind of disappointed with it. And they're like, oh, well, you're cool too.
Yeah.
I know plenty of people that adore you, Maya, that talk about you all the time. So
Maybe the coolest person on the show.
Yes.
Maybe
Tell
the cool
them what
person on the
Maya
show.
definitely is.
What does Maya do? Tell Maya what you do.
I am the stunt double
For everybody.
for quite a few of the girls, yes.
Oh, I know everything Maya does. I think she's awesome.
So she's the real tough one.
She's the one who
Not
goes flying
really.
through the air and
Yeah.
bumping into cars
Yeah.
and amazing.
She is
But-
amazing.
Yeah.
They do have such a great response to it. Everybody all the time. Everyone's always really excited, and they do have that hope, and they're different from other fans, I think, because they all have a really sweet positiveness about.
And I think it's
It's an
been interesting
innocence,
too that
beautiful
there are sort of factions of fans, right? There's this real sense of community, and it's been interesting that there has been some segments that have, I don't know, in some ways there's a sense that of bullying within and then you have this whole group that sides up and says we don't do that, and I think that that's a really interesting development within the fan base. There's a real sense of community among the people that love this show, and even within themselves they have had to exercise that sense of love and peace among the factions.
No, yeah, I see it often, and I have people come to me, and in fact, I got a tweet the other day to Bullies Keep Out about a voting poll on After Ellen for Swan Queen, I believe it was. I believe they have some voting poll going on, and there was a lot of bullying that was taking place, and it happens within the fandom. I have a lot of people that come to me, in private and DM me, and they talk about, like you said, that you guys have gotten at cons and people cutting themselves and suicidal thoughts, and I think you guys are kind of everybody in their own way. A beacon for the fans in a lot of ways, but there is, sadly, bullying that goes on. But what happens is, I think, is that it's a few select people, and then a whole group of people get blamed for it. You know?
But I think more importantly is a whole group of people come together and say, we're not going to do that.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
really what I was trying to
cool.
speak to.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And what's nice is because they've taken a lot of classic fairy tales that often are driven by the thematic premise of hope, and they've re-envisioned them. So it's sort of flipped ideas about gender and race and all these other various different things on its head, and it's allowed so many different people to find so many different things that resonate specifically to their own personal lives, which is unique and which is, opened itself up to tremendous debate and discussion and perception. But it's brilliant. Like and I think that's the, with respect to the writers and the creators for being able to create something that has such a universal appeal.
Isn't it funny? Because some of those original fairy tales had so much bullying in them.
Yeah.
And they've put twists on that and
Yeah.
just got to the core of these people. Because most bullies are wounded human beings. There's somebody who's
Exactly.
struggling with deep
Like
pain or
Rumple,
fear.
right?
It's
Yeah.
lack of self-love.
I saw her face. She was like,
Yeah, no, it very much is. It's a learned behavior. You're not born to hate. You're not born to bully. I mean, it's something that people learn, and unfortunately, and sometimes they do it to themselves. When every time I recently spoke in front of 300 to 400 fifth and sixth graders, I believe it was, at a school. We were asked to come, and the teachers were like astounded by self-bullying, that term, like almost like they've never heard of it. And I think that, you see a lot of that too. And I think that when they watch the show, they even see a lot of it within the characters. When they're really hard on themselves, and they just see a lot of realness, like you were saying, Michael, in the characters that they can relate to. And I think that's a big part of what it is too. They all have like what works for them and what they get out of each character. So I think that that's great that a show could do that.
It's important to note, too, that as much as the show's about hope, there's such a strong message of redemption and forgiveness, which is, it's like you take some of the more popular characters, like, the five of us aside, Rumpelstiltskin, the evil queen.
Weren't
like 10
popular
minutes
characters.
later. What?
But, it's as much as the show's
Am I
about
in the
hope,
right room?
it's also a show about forgiveness and redemption, and it's from a personal standpoint, I hope that's not lost on the people who do get engaged in some of the negativity or have bullied or have felt bullied, that the opportunity to forgive or to allow somebody to be redeemed is epic. And you watch through the 4.5 years that we've been doing this with what Lana or what Robert. Well, actually, the Evil Queen Lana has probably never really killed anybody. I don't know her that well. I'm assuming.
I hope not.
For the fandom to follow those characters and to allow for their forgiveness and their redemption, hopefully they can do that amongst one another as well.
I think it's
Very true.
when it comes down to it, really, what we're talking about when you look at these bullies, it's lack of love for self.
Yeah.
Why would they do what they're doing? If they love themselves, they wouldn't be doing any of that, period. Right?
No, it's true.
Powerlessness. I think bullying is about power.
Yeah.
It's very much about power.
I
Power.
love that. So they're trying to find it somewhere.
Do you know what? I was bullied yesterday on Craigslist.
No.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
negotiating with this woman to pick up tickets for a concert for my
Right.
daughter.
Right.
We talked on the phone 3 times, arranging the spot, arranging the time, and then we text, and she didn't show. And the information cut off. So what was gained by this person? There was no money exchanged.
No.
It was within 10 minutes of posting the tickets for sale. I was the first one. She said, you get them, they're yours. And so we negotiated. I sent my boyfriend to go pick them up. There was huge inconvenience. He went, got money, and then she didn't show. And so I left. He was upset. I was upset. And my daughter was upset. And I thought, what does that person get out of this? It's some kind of a sick power. So we all had to let it go and then understand that this person's trying to find some, in pain, basically.
Yeah.
But
They're in pain.
it's just such a horrible motivation. It's some kind of a power trip that's an unfed sense of self-love.
Well, it is. We have a choice to go down one path or go down another when you have, I mean, some of them have traumatic pasts. Some of them are everybody's a victim when it comes to bullying. I work with bullies. I mean, a lot of them want to change. We're open to that. We don't limit helping anybody in what we do. But, you know, at the same time, I mean, they do have to answer for their actions, but they're hurting a lot. Some of them have very traumatic pasts, and they don't have anybody to talk to, any place to go. So what they are doing is they're lashing out. They're extremely angry. A lot of it is anger, and that's a normal emotion, but it could also be a very dangerous emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. The key is that we have to heal both the victims and the bullies, and that's
Yeah.
the only
Absolutely.
way you get to where you
Yeah.
want to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it is. It very much is.
Prevention.
Let me see what this question they have. I guess they want to know in your experience, which is harder, bullying over appearance or personality or performance, and how to deal with both. I'm not sure if they mean by performance. I don't know. Maybe like if you've gotten bullied for your character.
Are you kidding? The blue shady?
Repeat the question.
The question that she had was, and now I lost it. What, in their experience, is harder, bullying over appearance or personality / performance, and how to deal with both?
Still don't.
I don't know if I do. I wonder if they mean like, you know, the people who might hate you as a character.
Yeah, I think that's what they were trying to get at.
You know,
Maybe your characters, if you've had issues with that and how you dealt with it. Like, say you're written a storyline that, you know, we've seen plenty of people attack other people over storylines. So maybe that's along what she's talking about.
Is that we don't make up what we say or do. There's a whole room of people who create everything we say. I think that's sometimes lost. That it's like,
Yes.
why would you do that? And it's like, because it was in a stack of paper. And they commanded me to say and do that.
It's my job.
Hello.
It's always the thing that
Wake up,
baffles me that
people.
I think people are often surprised at how would he have the audacity to do that? He was contractually obligated to say those things and wear that outfit and walk in those exact steps.
Yeah.
Like we even have little pieces of tape on the ground that say walk here and
That's
then
right.
walk here. Like right down to that, it's scripted.
No, I've actually explained that to people. I've made posts, and I think, did a whole article on that. That what people have to understand is that it's a job, and, you know, it's a script, and there's writers.
It is, though.
Yeah.
You know, I used to have an acting teacher that talked about, this is different now because of social media, but he talked about how movie stars seemed distant, and you could put them on this sort of a pedestal because they were big and far away and unreal. But soap opera stars, you watched like in your underwear and your pajamas, so you felt like you knew them. You know what I mean? And I think that I don't know. Nowadays, everybody feels so close to everything. There's a blurred line between what they're seeing there and what their understanding of the people that they, you know, if you see them at a convention or something else. I know some of the people from this show have had very, very serious things leveled at them over social media or leveled at people that they love because of what's happening in the show.
I know.
That's a very blurred line,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
And it should be noted that if this show was like a show where it was just about like everybody was romantically involved with who they should be, and we all got along,
This show would
and
be
we had
Boring.
scraps,
Who would want to watch it?
like it intentionally, like
Yeah.
it needs conflict,
It's a
it
joke.
needs
I
to
would not
go
have a job
somewhere.
at all.
Like if it was just no, let's just watch their window and see them have an amazing time where everybody gets along.
Yeah.
It'd be such a horrible show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, and I say that all the time on my personal Twitter. I'm like, can we start talking about how we want everything to be perfect? Because otherwise, who's gonna watch it?
Well, that's what the finale.
Yeah.
So as soon as everything is amazing, the show can never make another episode. It has to end.
Yeah, exactly. It would have to be like, that's the happy ending, the end. Yeah, poor Maya. She's right. She wouldn't have a job if that was the case.
No job if it was a drama.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it.
Well,
Special action scrap move.
Yeah.
Back from the queue. Score.
you could just come flipping through the screen.
Random costume.
What's crazy is she literally could. Like the only one sitting here who could literally just flip across the screen.
Right now, I believe that too.
I have to get going.
I know.
Any
So,
last for me?
they basically one of the questions is they wanted to know, as actors, and you guys are inspired in a lot of ways, and they wanted to know what inspires you, and if any entertainers and personally inspire you guys, like you inspire them.
I like the funny gals who make a difference, like Ellen DeGeneres and Rosie O'Donnell and Emma Thompson and Meryl Streep and Judi Dench. Just quality women of substance that stand up and tell the truth and are not afraid. Those are my inspirations. What was the second half? What inspires me?
Yeah, what inspires you? Like, they feel so inspired by you guys, so they want to know, like, how that, they want to turn the tables and ask you what inspires you and who you look up to.
Who I think is really great right now is Rose McGowan, who is really like trying to actively change the narrative. And she and any women who are, for me, I'm a feminist, and I think that any woman that's out there saying we are not going to be bullied by the system in general, people that are rebelling against, even I don't even know how I saw this. I don't even know. Something about Ariana Grande the other day was doing like an interview.
I saw the
and
interview.
They were like,
Yeah.
would you pick your makeup or your phone? And she was like, this is what you're going to ask me? And I was like, damn,
Yeah.
She was
girls
amazing.
were raised by women who said, you don't have to do that. And they're, as a generation, I think, standing up and saying, what? And so that's what I'm so happy to see a younger generation of women who have the power to say, we don't need that. Even this whole squad thing, which I know has been much derided with Taylor Swift, I genuinely feel like these young women are happy for each other's success, as opposed to my generation where it was crabs in a bucket,
Yeah.
You don't want anybody to be successful.
But I think it's like when you look at like the Jennifer Lawrence thing and where Bradley Cooper spoke up about wage equality, like I think it's important that somebody like me can proudly wear a hashtag feminism label, and it's just I think we live in a different world now where we're all fighting for a different level of equality regardless of race or gender, that we're all it's ludicrous to me. It's insane that you would pay somebody differently because of their race or gender.
Yeah.
I think that's like, for anybody to say that without any sort of offense baffles me.
I'm a humanist. I believe that all humans should be created and we are created equal, so why shouldn't we be treated equally? Period.
It's an interesting time. It's an interesting time.
Do I have to start talking about the patriarchy and
Yeah. It's an
Emma Watson interviewed Malala.
Oh, yeah.
Emma Watson's doing amazing things for like such a young
equality and just
There are a generation of girls who have
It's
heard it
so
and
fantastic.
they're putting it into action.
They're
and I think
intelligent,
it's
they're
wonderful.
well spoken, they're using their 15 minutes to do something different for the world, and it's really easy to rally behind.
And they're about equality for all humans.
Yeah.
Period.
Like
Yeah.
people.
What
Period.
didn't
really cool.
Lady Gaga just made some grand statement?
She did.
What was hers?
I feel like she left the music industry.
That's what I heard too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just saw
Really?
the title.
Is that
Lady
right?
Gaga is leaving. Now I could have been an
I
ad,
didn't watch it.
but I just thought, I want to read that. Like,
Well, it's-
what is her
She's
reason?
in your neck of
She
the
doesn't
wood.
want to wear
What's going
meat
on?
anymore.
Yeah,
Mine
no.
is-
The last
it
thing
has
I
some-
heard about Lady Gaga was the incredible video that she made. That was like really heart wrenching to watch. But it was beautiful. But that was the last thing. I don't know of anything
My
that.
understanding is it's something about abuse from a producer who she refuses to work with, and the contract obligates her to work. So her answer is, then I just don't do it anymore. Like, we grew up in a time where, and this is not to put it on the same scale, but like where the artist formerly known as Prince, who's Prince again,
Right.
like that was our thing, but where Prince was like, okay, then I'll find a way around this bullying. If you own Prince, then I'm
I'll
the
do
artist,
somebody else.
and I get this.
So smart.
I mean, it was a long time ago, and it's a different thing, but it's similar. Those sort of foundations were planted long ago.
Okay.
People are not sitting idle anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's really key.
No, I think that's the most important part, and I think I did watch that and see the Malala and Emma Watson, and that was absolutely incredible. And she is doing amazing things. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that the generation is very different than it used to be. Back when I was, back in my day, like when you guys were talking about it, bullying was very different. You could get away with all this stuff. Now, people are getting killed. They're taking their lives. It's so different. From generation to generation, but it's definitely a big problem and epidemic now. So we're gonna We're gonna take a break on this segment, and I know Beverly has to go, so but we'll be back and continue our conversation in a little bit.